So just a brief reminder for those of you who have just joined the University of Adelaide. First of all, of course, welcome. Second, lectures typically start, or most sessions in general start at 10 past. So we will wait another 1 minute, maybe 90 seconds in total, and then we'll get going. Just 1 more minute, and we'll start. Alrighty, wait, let me press the record button. Cool, so this is now being recorded. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to semester 1, 2021. I'll start right away, as soon as I can find the share screen button again. And let's start maybe a little unconventionally, and that's with the following. I hope you all can still hear me. An icebreaker, just so that we get to know each other a little bit more. So, well, normally if you would be sitting here in the classroom, I'd ask you 30 seconds, so don't talk about anything, don't talk with your neighbors. Think of something. What is your current superpower, or what would you like your superpower to be? So I'll give everybody 30 seconds to think about it, and then we'll continue. So 30 seconds from now. All right, I believe everybody has made up her mind or his mind. We'll now do the following. I'll split you all into, or distribute you all into breakout rooms, and I'll give you, let's say, 2 minutes. In these 2 minutes, please introduce yourselves to the others and say what your superpower is. Opening all, and I believe you must have received requests to move over. Good. And now back at 14, 15, 16. Could give it another 20 seconds. All right. Who would like to go ahead? Who have you met, and what was his or her superpower? And since you said something at the beginning of the lecture, who did you meet, and what is his or her superpower?
I met Anthony, and his superpower was to fly.
To fly. Good.
Yeah.
Anthony, by any chance, who have you met? Well, you probably have met Hayden, and maybe Cheng Hao. What's...
I can't remember the name of it. Sorry, now I remember.
No, that was me. Yeah.
Yeah. To read someone's mind.
Read someone's mind. Very useful. Cool. Good, good. Who else wants to go ahead? Ishan, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, Ishan, who have you met, and what is his or her superpower?
I think I can know others thinking like that.
So mind reading, very useful. Thank you. The last one maybe. I think Lantian, you checked your audio is not.
I wanna code without any bugs.
Code without any bugs. Okay, that's a very useful superpower. Good. Okay, as you've now already noticed, okay, this is the second part of this exercise. So of this icebreaker. You've talked to each other. That's fantastic. You all have, or many of you have not met in person yet. Hopefully one day you'll have the opportunity to meet in person. Some of you might actually be overseas at the moment. In which case, well, welcome. It's great that you managed to dial in today. The purpose of this little exercise is twofold. One, of course, for you to simply meet each other. This way you have a little bit of a name or an idea of what the other person is, and it's not just a name somewhere in the Zoom box with just an abbreviation. And the second one is these activities I will try to run throughout the semester. These activities are called think, pair, share activities. So the thinking part, initially, you've seen here, 30 seconds. I'll give you a moment to think about it just as individuals. And then afterwards, you get to briefly discuss in groups, and then we report back. The big advantage is, for me, the advantage is I get to see if the entire class is stuck on something. I get feedback immediately, so I just don't keep just going through the content, and I might have lost all of you, which is not fantastic. But also for you, it's an opportunity to briefly check, okay, have you actually understood what I've been talking about? Can you maybe help somebody else to correct his or her misconceptions? So that's a fantastic way of briefly checking on each other as well. Yep. Cool. So, good. If you have more superpowers that you would like to, okay, Sun Fu says, I think I have innovative thinking. That's good. So in case you want to share any other superpowers, please go ahead in the chat and do so. Cool. Let's continue. Yes, and that's of course my superpower, or my superpower that I would like to have, and that is to write bug-free code. Well, I wish I had this. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I'm getting close. I'm trying hard to. Speaking of me, I know I haven't said my name just yet. So my name is Marcus Wagner. You might have guessed this by now. Do not call me professor. I'm not a full professor yet. If you want to call me Marcus, Dr. Marcus, Professor Wagner is wrong, and an associate professor. So we don't do titles here normally, at least not in the School of Computer Science. So just say, hi Marcus, dear Marcus, everything's fine. No need to be overly formal here. No, I think this course is special. By the way, when you have any questions, well, you can't easily raise your, well, actually you can raise your hands. You might be aware of the reactions, where they can, I'm not sure whether you can see this at the moment, sorry. And if you have your Zoom bar up, from mute, stop video, security, and so on the far right, there's a dot. And you click on it, you might see the chat and then reactions. So let's see what reactions can I have. For example, I can give a thumbs up, and then you might be able to see the thumbs up somewhere in the screen. I tend to, well, because I'll be the one typically talking, and I do not have a two screens set up normally running, I will not be able to see it when you put your hand up. But what I will be able to see is when you use a chat, because then I have a little, I can have this box floating around somewhere, and I get a little notification once somebody types something in the chat. So please use the chat. Big advantage is that this way, maybe during the lecture, you can even help each other out. While I'll just happily keep talking about some topic, you can ask a quick question. Maybe somebody else in the audience can already help out and answer this while I'm still maybe elaborating on some aspect or so. Cool. So please use the chat during the lectures. The slight trouble with the chat is that once you close the chat, once the lecture is over, the chat will be saved normally, but we cannot easily refer to it. So it will take a few hours until I can make the chat available because it's stored online in the cloud somewhere. So don't use chat for super critical information. For critical information, use the discussions forum, but I will point you at this in a moment again. All right, enough waffling about. Let's come to the course. I think this course is quite special. But why is it the case? Well, it's not only because I'm teaching it, of course, so I'm a bit biased here. In general, it's offering you the exposure to many different fields and different people. So that's obviously a older picture of mine. But I'll try to bring in colleagues of mine from the School of Computer Science. So here we have Brad Alexander, we've got Christoph Treudel, Minge Gur, all experts here and colleagues within my school. I'll try to bring in Earl and Justina from the University College London, probably via Zoom because they currently can't travel internationally. And there's a good chance that I'll be bringing Marcela from Brazil in as well. But why is this important? Why do we do a lot of team teaching here? Well, one advantage is you get to experience different teaching styles, and maybe for you it's a bit, well, it doesn't get as repetitive if you see me just over and over and over again. But also, all of us, we work on very different problems. We conduct research in very different directions. So in my area, for example, I go for just optimization approaches in general, heuristic optimization, and I'll talk about those during certain lectures. Brett does a fair bit in automated program repair and bug fixing. Christoph does a lot of work. He's one of the leading researchers in the world in mining software repositories. Minge does a lot in bounty hunting. So when you have bug hunting, bounty hunting. So he also does some really awesome stuff there. Marcela, just like me, is a general optimization researcher. And somewhere at the intersection between all of us sits Justina and Earl from UCL. They do very specialized problems in search-based software engineering, which sits at the intersection of software engineering and optimization. So I'll try hard to get them in. At the very least, there will be videos, but I'll do my best to organize some live sessions so that you can just get to see them live and maybe ask questions live and have them available for some Q&A as well. Cool. So that's the lecturers. Content, of course, is also special, I think. So the interesting part about search-based software engineering is the following. Well, where does it come from? Well, many activities in software engineering, they involve some element of search. You have maybe, for example, in software, in testing, code testing, you're trying to maximize branch coverage, line coverage. Okay? You're maximizing something, so you have an optimization. You're searching for test cases. And there are many, many other such examples out there. You're trying to fix bugs, you're correcting defects. As soon as you can phrase something as an optimization problem, probably somebody has tried to do this and has maybe written a paper about it. And well, there are also some companies actually making money with search-based software engineering out there. The field of search-based software engineering is maybe 20 years old, 15 to 20 years old. It's a relatively young field, somewhat young field, but with a lot of impact nowadays. For example, with the automated test case generation, but also with the bug fixing itself. And as I said, so there's a lot of, there's some companies out there making money in this direction. It has become increasingly popular over the last years because we see software simply everywhere. The nice thing is once you can, or depending on what your actual problem is, you can phrase it something as an optimization problem. You can customize your software. So you have a particular target platform that you want your code to run as efficiently as possible, but maybe your target platform is a Raspberry Pi, and the next platform is a gaming laptop. So probably the two have very different capabilities in terms of computing power and multiple cores and so on. So you might be able to use very, very different approaches to customize your system to the Raspberry Pi and to the gaming laptop. So throughout this course, we'll do our best to expose you to, as many real-world examples of SPSE as possible. And through all these examples, we'll show you that formulating something as an optimization problem is actually relatively easy. And there are many, and once you have this formalization in place, actually doing some form of optimization on top is often rather straightforward. Well, this is the teaching side, so this is more the delivery side. On the assessment side, we also have a few things that are different from other courses. Over the years, some of my colleagues have adopted these concepts as well. So throughout the semester, there'll be some group work for you, teams of 3 to 4 students. You'll give spotlight talks or create videos in this case about recent research articles. This also exposes you to even more ideas, more examples of SPSE in the real world. You'll be writing summaries of these articles just to familiarize yourself really deeply with a particular topic. And there'll be some online quizzes. And of course, along the way, you'll get a lot of feedback. You might have noticed, and I'll briefly mention this later again, there is no exam. So no exam is planned unless many of you really want to do an exam at the very end of the semester. There will really be no exams. And I think this is something positive. So no, you don't have this rush at the end. This also means that during the semester you'll have to start early. So as soon as something is posted, please get going. Good. So there's part of the content. Through this assessment, so through these videos, through the works, through the invited talks, through the reports, I'm trying really hard to expose you to as much bleeding edge research, bleeding edge technology as possible. I can do this because not only, there's a lot of work out there, but also the University of Adelaide does fairly well in this direction, well in computer science in general. So it's currently ranked 40th in the world, depending on what ranking you look at, number 2 in computer science even, and world leading in some other areas. But we really have some great stuff to offer here at the University of Adelaide. We also tend to work a lot with coursework students. So some of you might, maybe in the long run, endeavor in or consider doing an MPhil or a PhD even. Sometimes out of these course projects that we do, the group assignments, we spin off, depending on how good the results are, we spin off articles, and then that's something nice for the CV, for example, of the student. So it's exposure, it's learning how research is done in a small team at a world-leading level. And maybe this will then start the fire in your heart to say, yes, research is the direction that I want to go later. And for some, these papers are indeed the starting point of a career in academia. So at least 5 students that have written papers with us, or coursework students in the past, they have joined us as PhD students. Cool. So staff for this course this semester, that's me, of course, as the course coordinator, and Viet. Viet might or might not be here today. Let me briefly double check in the participants. No, he is not here. So Viet will look after your assessments, so your assignments, the quizzes will be marked automatically, and he'll be looking after your essays and videos as well. He tends to be a little bit strict, so just to warn you ahead of time. But he also tries to provide as much feedback as possible, constructive feedback as possible. So take it on board. See it as a learning activity. It's on purpose that he's trying to be a little bit more, simply strict. From me, I will mostly be organizing the lectures and invited talks, and I'll just have a general oversight over the course, of course. Speaking of the course website has a lot of information on it. Don't explore it now in case you haven't had the opportunity to do so just yet. So I just have to mute my phone here. A lot of information. When lectures take place, so today I've actually organized a lecture theater. Not seeing anyone here, unfortunately. There is officially no room allocated to this course, which I found interesting. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. I have to say that. Let's see, maybe during the semester I will keep organizing rooms from time to time, just in case that you would like, so those who are present in Adelaide, just in case you would like to meet each other. But more on this just in a moment. So a lot of information is here on this website. The Zoom link apparently is 17 of you have found. That's fantastic. The assessment column points here at all the assessments. The assessment by assignment 1 is even online. The quizzes are online. There's a lot of additional reading material for you. It's not necessarily mandatory, but it's recommended. So if you have time, spend it and read and learn just a little bit more. Lecture slides, I tend to upload either on the day or maybe the day before or the day after. So some version of the lecture slides is already up. I tend to do some fine-tuning. So even though this course has been running now for about 3-4 years, I tend to make some adjustments, some updates. So if you want to get the newest versions, just wait maybe until the day after, just to be on the safe side, and then download it again. But in general, whatever I present to you, what you can find in the video, you can definitely go with it. So all the material that you need for completing the assignments is already up, and all the assessments is already up. Good. Since we are meeting via Zoom, I have to briefly address Zoom fatigue. So this is when this is a condition when people just get exhausted from meeting online all the time. Let me see if I can briefly see this actually. No, I can't see that. See on my single. So what I can see at the moment is that, for example, none of you has the cameras on, which is fine. There are actually several approaches to this. Typically I prefer in-person lectures, face-to-face lectures. It lets me see the body language of the others, lets me just interact with the others as well, and I can do things on the whiteboard, and I can do things to a certain extent here in the Zoom window as well, of course. But I really prefer face-to-face. A drawback of, Zoom sessions is, especially when you use this, I'm not sure whether you can actually see this now, when you can see the all other students present or everybody else present, you think somebody's looking at you all the time. Because in this case, right now, you might not be able to see this. I have potentially 12 people looking at me, and this can be just stressful because it's over such it's over 2 hours essentially. So, and especially when you use it maybe in full screen mode and super large, there's no need for doing this. So make it as small as possible, or even just minimize the other participants. It's completely fine with me. It's also for some people a little irritating when they can see themselves. For example, in the list, you might not be able to see this. I can see myself right now talking. If you do this over 2 hours, this might also be exhausting to you. If you see yourself all the time and you might wonder, okay, is my posture okay? Do I look right? Do I maybe look off screen somewhere? don't worry about this. It's possible to hide yourself from this view, this matrix of all the participants, just to make your life a little easier. Also, one challenge can be, and this is mostly, I'm suffering from this, is in video chats you tend to move a lot less. In a room you might sometimes go left or look right. Right now it might be a bit irritating if I do this or if you do this and you think, I don't know, person A is not paying attention because it's looking left or right, but maybe he or she is just looking at the dog or the child just came through the door. Yeah, so that's perfectly fine. So if you feel like you have to stretch it a little bit, just turn your camera off, and that's fine. And join us again. So turn the camera on at some point. Last point. Well, in general, it's seeing so much happening around you and seeing people looking at you, it incurs a very high cognitive load. So as far as I'm concerned, it's okay if you leave your camera off. And as I said, at the moment, actually everybody's camera is off. Maybe at some point or sometime in the future, from time to time, we can briefly see each other, even if it's just at the beginning of the lecture, just so that I have an idea. Okay, what do you actually look like? Makes my experience also a bit more a personal one. Good. So this is almost all for this first hour, for first lecture. The first proper lecture with actual content will be on Wednesday. And you might already have noticed that, well, we start 10 past, so Wednesday, 10 past 1, we'll start with the actual content of the lecture. In general, as you also may have noticed, we don't have any rooms. As I said, I will try to organize some rooms from time to time, just in case that you all want to meet. But again, whenever I organize a room, it's also perfectly fine, because I will be streaming everything via Zoom. You can just dial in. And for some of you, especially those of you who are still overseas, well, you don't have the option of joining us. So we will always set up Zoom as a backup. Don't worry about it. Cool. At the moment, so before I go through some additional information, does anyone have any questions? Well, if you happen to have questions in a moment or a minute or in 5 minutes, just use the chat window. I'm not sure whether you can actually see my chat window at the moment. Zoom tends to blacken out certain windows that are Zoom specific. Actually, maybe I can simply ask you, can you see my Zoom, my chat window right now, a big black box? Let's say I put it in the center of my screen. Do you see my chat window now?
No, I can't see it.
Okay. Do you see a black box just hovering in the center, or nothing at all?
No, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing at all.
Okay.
Just a slide.
Good. Thanks very much for letting me know. Good.
So Marcus, I do have a query.
Yes, please.
So regarding the assessment, regarding the the question, the quiz, or any kind of assessment that you post. So will we be notified, or do we have to keep an eye on it and keep checking about the the last date to submit and to work on it? How does it work?
I try to be as transparent as possible. So all information should already be online for the entire semester. When it says here, it's very good, Vinci, that you asked. For example, here in week 1, so the present week, we have 2 quizzes, 00 and 01. Let me click on 00. If I remember correctly, I set it all up so that all quizzes, it's very good that you asked, all quizzes are always due on Friday evening.
Okay.
So this one is due on Friday evening. Don't worry, you'll probably be able to do that within 5 minutes after this lecture. Quiz 01 should also be due on 5th of March.
Okay.
Now, your view of this window of this particular page might be a little different because I get to see all the admin setup, but you should also be able to see, maybe you can actually briefly check whether you can see 5th of March as a due date. This would be very helpful if one of you could please check.
Yeah, the due date's there.
5th March, good.
Yeah.
Excellent. whenever something is not clear, just ask, right? The trouble is, I have a different view of the system, and even though it says here student view at the top, it's not always a perfect representation of what you get to see. So just ask questions when something is unclear. When you encounter a broken link, let me know, and I'll fix it. So due date for assignment 1 is already, it should be mentioned here in the PDF. And when you scroll down a little bit, it's due here in week 4. So you can click here, and then you probably have a submit button. I don't have a submit button because I can't submit to my own assignment. But for you, once you click here on the week 4, when the assignment is due, week 4, the assignment is due on Friday evening, then yeah, you can submit it there. Similarly, just to briefly show you, assignment 2, sorry, there'll be some updates, so some parts are not, it's not fully published just yet, but it will be due here in week 7, and then assignment 3 will come out, and assignment 3 is due at the very end of the semester. So if you do, so some people think week-based, so in this case, I hope this table here contains all information. Cool. Good. Thanks very much, Vinci, for asking. Oh, Vinci. Sorry, may I ask, what's the correct pronunciation of your name?
It's Vinci.
Vinci, good.
Yeah.
All right. Since we already worked on the assessment side, well, the assessment was supposed to be the second slide deck anyhow. Let's go through this. I mean, it's mandatory for me anyhow, that not only that I cover certain technical aspects that I'm obliged to cover, but also you all should know what will be happening in detail now over the semester. So assessment in general, we've covered a few things already. There will be 3 assignments. The first one is an individual assignment. So assignment 1 is individual. It's worth 5%. Don't worry, I would say it's manageable. You need to put in some time, but do it individually. Assignments 2 and 3 are group assignments. As I said, groups of 3 to 4 students. Please use the discussion forum, or maybe use the chat here in case you want to form a group. They're each worth 15% of your final course mark. That's a substantial amount, I think. So make sure that you start early. Don't worry, the 4 or 5 weeks that you have to do the group assignments are definitely enough. Then is something that we'd like to do here, because it also replaces an exam, which is not super popular with students. We do, as I said, these videos and the essays. In previous years, we had done talks in person here in the lecture theater. This is now, with everybody going online, a little tricky. So we decided to go for videos. And another advantage of videos is, especially for those who are not English native speakers, you can just record your videos over and over and over and over again. You can edit them, you can throw in animations. In general, we've seen an enormous improvement in marks, student marks, once we've moved from in-person presentations to videos. Because you can simply, you can edit the video, you can record certain sections over and over again, and then say, here's my Hollywood blockbuster masterpiece. So, each of them is worth 15%. It's also a substantial amount, so make sure that you spend some time on each of them. There is more information online. Let me see if it works. This page itself, it might take you maybe 15 minutes, half an hour to just digest what's actually written on this page. Take this time. If something is not clear, well, first maybe read it a second time. It contains a lot of information on these talks or videos and the essays. There's a brief summary in the top, on the top. There are some examples of some videos, also with some notes like, okay, yours should be more detailed, or yours should be, because the others are longer, yours should be a bit shorter. So yeah, there's a lot of information on there. If you think something is not entirely clear, just ask. Over time, I have added clarifications because of the previous courses to this text. Like, for example, some students ended up copying a lot of text from the paper, from the scientific paper directly into their report. This is not cool. So distill your own text from it. if you're not an English native speaker, that's fine. Don't worry about it. We tend to ignore many mistakes that are made by many students. But don't just blindly copy and paste text over. This is it still has to flow, right? And there's a lot more information. I will not go through all the details. Have a look at it. As I said, plenty of information on here. Maybe spend half an hour simply going through this once or twice even. One important aspect of this page is that here in this paragraph, it points at a spreadsheet. And here in this spreadsheet, you will record which papers you're picking. These are recent, so 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. So from 3 selected conferences, so SBSE, GECO, and ICSI here at the bottom, ICSI. The papers, and let's say, I'll just pick you, Vinci, right now. If you say you want to pick this particular paper here, you put down your name, Vinci, and say this is for the first round, and maybe, because I'll make my life easy right now, Vinci, you pick the second paper for the second round. I will undo this, of course, so this is not, you're not committing to anything now. Just put this down, and this way we know that, hey, this paper is blocked. Don't take it, so nobody else can then take it. There are enough papers in this long list. Many great things, great papers. Read a couple. Look at them, see what excites you, and then pick them. You still have, you have a fair amount of time. You have about 3.5 weeks to pick 2 papers, which I think is very much doable. Have a look around today, have a look around next week, pick the papers, and then start to work on your videos and reports right away. Okay, so keep this in mind. So videos and essays in total worth 60%. That's a substantial amount of the course. 5% are formed by the online quizzes. These are just quick checks every week or almost every week. And in general, we as the university, I'm as a lecturer, I'm kind of expecting you to participate in everything, in all the lectures, in all activities, submit everything on time. It makes your experience a better one because you get to see everything. You get to see all the aspects. You get a lot of feedback as well. By the way, in case you're wondering why are we doing online quizzes here, some of my colleagues have started to introduce quizzes as well. And in particular, I've started to use quizzes here in SBSE in 2018 because students wanted quizzes. They were wondering, okay, can we maybe do quizzes? And it has the big advantage that in addition to joining the Zoom session once and maybe reading up on it afterwards, we check on your knowledge briefly. And this brief testing, this has really shown, so there's scientific studies about it, this brief testing has really shown to increase long-term knowledge retention, so memorizing or remembering something. That's really helpful to briefly, just for these 5-10 minutes, but sometimes maybe 15 minutes, just to briefly engage with the material. These quizzes are open book, open internet, but of course no chatting to others, no posting of solutions anywhere. But in general, you can of course look back at the slides while you're answering the questions, so that's fine. And again, you get feedback from the quiz. How much time should you be investing? I said everything is worth 5%, 10%. What does this translate to? You might or might not know this. Well, this is a 3-credit course. The university expects you to put in about 12 hours a week. So there's a link to the official policy. 12 hours a week, which is a fair amount. So for those of you who are actually taking 12 credits, that's 48 hours a week of studying. That's a large amount. Well, that aside, maybe let's consider the following. If the expectation is 12 hours, and I might very, very loosely base my expectations on these 12 hours as well, but we are not getting, this is not getting recorded, so I'm not asking you to put down how many hours you actually invest in a particular course. If you end up putting in just the maybe 2 hours for the lecture and another hour to do a little bit, your mark might not be at the end of a high distinction. Having said this, of course, if you put in 12 hours, I can also not guarantee you a high distinction, but there's a very good chance that you get a decent mark, definitely. I think so, based on my experience. So keep this in mind. For example, let's pick one of the videos. So I said each video is worth 15%. Well, if we consider 12 units times 13 weeks, that's a lot of hours, and then 15% of that is 20 to 25 hours for a video, or for a report, or for assignment 2 or assignment 3. Just keep this in mind as a ballpark, right? If you spend maybe just 4 hours on an assignment, and in the end your mark is not fantastic, maybe you should have invested a little bit more. Having said this, of course, if you're super familiar with the content, maybe you can get a high distinction with just 4 hours as well. Yeah. Just to set the expectations here a little bit. So, personally, I think 12 hours are a bit on the high side per week. But nevertheless, this is what the university expects you to invest. Speaking of investment, I've picked here one student from 2018 who has apparently who has done reasonably well. I think she got a high distinction in the end. What you see here is a fair bit. There's lots going on here. Overall, so these are statistics that I can see for you all, either per student or also aggregated. And for example, here, this particular student, I can see that initially she did a lot. She clicked on links. She might have posted something on the forum. So they were in the first week over 80 activities. So an activity, I believe, is clicking on something, reading material, posting a question, and so on. And then over the weeks, okay, sometimes it was a little quieter. Yeah, I think there was 2 weeks because it's the second semester edition. There was a break, but overall, let's say 40-ish or so was maybe the average over each week. 40 interactions with the course content, at least something that we recorded in the forum. We can also see that overall with the assessments, she has done quite well. These are two. So this is she submitted almost everything on time. So the quizzes were done on time. Okay, these are the 4 essays and reports. They just are recorded slightly differently. Don't worry about this. One thing was apparently a little bit late, but overall she did everything on time. So that's fantastic. And the marks overall were also green. Lots of good scores. One was not so great, but overall she did really well. And I think much of this is because she interacted with the course content over and over again. I actually took the liberty to look into the correlation of interaction with something. So in this case, it's page view versus final course mark for the 2018 edition. And this is simply a linear match. So it's not a particularly, it's maybe not a super high correlation, but you see the trend nevertheless. So this, I've not done this by hand, but Excel has done this for me. So linear regression over page views versus course mark. We see some people, overall, what do you see? There are a couple of people that with lots of interactions, lots of page views, lots of clicking on things, they get a high mark. But there are obviously also some that don't do as much and they get a really high mark. But you also see some who don't interact very much and they get maybe a pass or credit. Just to give you an idea. So really, participations, I think these are also postings. So there are different ways of analyzing the data afterwards. And I think it shows nicely that overall, there's a trend. The more you interact with the content, the more you maybe post questions, post replies to other students, there's a chance that because you interact with the content more, you get a higher mark in the end. Having said all of this, of course, if you just keep clicking refresh, this does not automatically get a higher mark, of course, because we don't mark page refreshes or participations. Speaking of marks, we use here the general Adelaide grading scale from high distinctions to failed. There's probably no surprise here. When you submit something late, so first of all, don't submit late, please. If you submit something late, if it's up to 1 day late, we cut it at 75%. Well, if you have, let's say, if you would get 70% anyhow, we wouldn't reduce this any further, but the maximum that we can achieve is 75. So we cut it. Is it up to 2 days late? 50% cut, up to 50% you can only achieve. 3 days late, up to 25, and if it's more than 3 days late, sorry, nothing anymore. So start early and hand in early. Very, very important. Now, every semester, I'll get some emails saying, my internet went down and I'm 5 minutes late. If you're 5 minutes late, personally, I don't care. In the sense that, hey, this is still a timely submission. If you're pushing it maybe half an hour, 1 hour, 5 hours, 12 hours, at some point I'll have to say, no, this is not acceptable anymore. So don't sweat about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, but hey, the semester has started, it's the 1st of March, and you already know when everything is due. Start early, hand in early. Makes your life easier. For those of you who are repeating, I'll just briefly mention this. I think I have not seen anyone who's actually repeating this course from last year. In case you are repeating, essentially you have to do everything from scratch again. So do the homeworks again from scratch, fill out all the exams again, do other spotlight presentations, and so on. Modified arrangements are sometimes necessary for students who, for example, have a disability access plan. Or I've had in the past 2 athletes who had to attend events. So they get adjustments, maybe they get an extension for one particular assessment by a week or for 2 weeks. This is all possible. If you think you have any special circumstances, approach me, not Weird. Weird cannot make such decisions. Approach me via email, and we'll see if this isn't, if you have some circumstances that warrant an extension or some other assessment. Okay. In general, well, if you are just a little bit stressed, this doesn't count. If you have something else due in the same week, this also doesn't count. Because everything is known in advance, right? So full disclosure from my side, from our side here, plan ahead. That's easy. But having said this, it is extremely difficult for me to see when you are just experiencing normal anxiety because you have 3 things due on the same day, or if you're properly if you need professional help, if you need to seek professional help. So maybe it's the most obvious among you all, because you might be talking to each other via WeChat, via Discord or so. If you notice that somebody is just extremely distressed and doesn't come to university for an extended period of time and doesn't respond to emails, just ask that person whether he or she is okay. It's a very simple thing to ask. And you might not know that there might be serious personal problems, there might be psychological problems that I cannot always see. I'm not a medical doctor or a psychological doctor. I can't anticipate this. If you notice something among your peers, just ask them whether everything is okay, or what if something is not okay. And if you think they could benefit from some professional help, here at the University of Adelaide, in the Horace Lamb building downstairs, there are counselors. They are very professional. They help quite a number of students. And in case of emergencies, they can be available on the spot. So they find time right away to talk either to you or to a friend of yours. So keep your eyes out for extreme levels of maybe anxiety or whatever you notice. I've already indicated this. If you think you're a bit in an exceptional situation, contact me as soon as possible. And if needed, I will escalate this to the head of school. This is rarely necessary, but I can do this if need be. Don't submit anything false or fraudulent. This might be referred to the Student Misconduct Tribunal. We've had, for example, one case where a student said, my relative died, and produced something in a foreign language, a document. It unfortunately turned out that that document was simply taken from the internet, so that student got into a lot of trouble. Yeah, don't do this. Don't fake it, please. If you're sick, I should briefly mention this. If you're sick or you've fallen sick, contact me as soon as possible. And when you contact me, send me a doctor certificate. This certificate will say, the student has not been able to work in, let's say, from 1st of March to 5th of March. This is fine. It will not list the condition or whatever circumstances. It will just say, no official signature from the doctor, then, hey, the student hasn't been able to do anything for this week. Send it to me and we'll make it work somehow. Just contact me as soon as possible, right? Also, based on this example, if you're sick for 5 days, don't expect a 10-day extension, right? That's fairly straightforward. Okay, so these are all the special circumstances. There's also at the very end of the semester, well, depending on how well you do at the course, if you end up somewhere in the range between of 45 to 49, well, technically that's a fail, but we might give you, in this range, we will give you an additional assessment, so an additional opportunity to make it 250. For this, keep an eye on your inbox, because this gets decided relatively late in the semester, so after the examiners meeting at the School of Computer Science, which is after the exams, and then you'll get an email from the faculty saying, for this course, additional assessment has been granted, and you have to contact the course coordinator. So I will not send you an email, but it goes through faculty, through the university. So that is important. This also means that because it happens a little bit after the exams, but still before the next semester, obviously, be sure that you're available during this additional assessment period. We can always make it work somehow, but if you just go on holidays for 3 weeks and you're not accessible, then this opportunity might simply disappear afterwards. Relatively standard conditions here. Replacement exams or replacement examinations in general, because, for example, you've had some very serious situation that you could not participate in a particular assessment. Actually, well, we don't have exams here. I'll try to make something work with you, but in general, this slide here actually does not really apply to this course because we don't have exams, right? No exam at the very end of the course. And again, more information on replacement exams, but we don't have any exams, so this does not apply. But in general, the university will contact you if possible. For more information, there's an official policy out there if you seek additional information. Again, very important, don't submit anything don't do anything wrong, fraudulent, we will have a few examples in a moment. The exam dates will be online, but again, this doesn't really apply to this course. Academic honesty is really, really important for many reasons. One is, before I go next, one is, if you think that collaborating with someone here during the course is okay to get you a good mark, later in the workforce you might not have this opportunity. So your transcript might say, you've got excellent marks here from the University of Adelaide, but if you haven't done the work yourself, you might struggle really badly later on. So you're kind of deceiving yourself and your employer as well. So just keep this in mind. Try to do work by yourself. Don't copy from the internet. Unless it's allowed. So assignment 1 will actually allow you to copy certain things from the internet, but this is a rare exception. In general, don't copy again. Well, in a nutshell, don't copy from anyone unless you're specifically authorized that you can do certain things. Don't copy any code from another student or from another source or anyway, unless we say, hey, this is acceptable. Do everything from scratch. All the assessments are set up in such a way that you can very well complete them within the time limit. It's no problem at all. Yep. And see it as additional exercise. See it as an opportunity to train, to further your skills in a particular area, whether it's coding, whether it's algorithmic thinking, whether it's in this case now search-based software engineering. If we catch you, well, you may receive 0 for the assignments, 0 for the course, or even get expelled. Now, for those of you who have not come across this before, it's not that weird, or I can simply say, hey, you cheated, and then you don't go to jail. You get 0 for the assignment. We have to put together the information. We will not immediately inform you. We put together information that we think, hey, maybe there's something fishy has happened here. Maybe you submitted something from last year. Maybe you outsourced work. This seems to be fairly popular at the moment as well. But we are monitoring a large number of these professional homework, I don't know what they call it, consulting websites, or just, we essentially pay people to do your homework. We're monitoring this, and we find students who do this. So once we think we have enough evidence together to make a case, we put this information together, we put it forward to our assessment coordinator within the school. The assessment coordinator then checks, all right, does this look like a clear case or not? If it's not, then simply nothing will happen. If the assessment coordinator thinks, hey, this is there's a breach of conduct, then we call for a meeting, and in this meeting will be present the student who is suspected of having done something wrong, the course coordinator, me, maybe the tutor, the assessment coordinator, and somebody uninvolved from the faculty. This way it's relatively, they try to have it as unbiased as possible. So it's not just me who can give you 0 right away. This is not how it works. The committee later on, so the student gets the opportunity to make his or her case, present his case or her case, and then the committee discusses and says, okay, this is a clear case, or this is maybe in doubt, the student was maybe right. Yeah, just to let you briefly know what the process looks like. If this happens for a second time throughout the student's history while studying at the University of Adelaide, the student might get a 0 even for the entire course. I've had this happen once to a student, not to me, to a student, and it was, the student wasn't excited about this because the student had to stay, spend another semester then studying here, but the student had plans to go overseas and earn lots of money there, but had to delay plans for 1 semester. So just keep this in mind. Yep. Again, I've kind of indicated this already. We don't give you the assignments to just keep you busy, although we kind of have the expectation that you will spend some time going through the content and learning. But we also do this so that these are opportunities for you to develop your understanding and your ability to apply what we think are important techniques. If you don't do this now yourself, you might struggle a little bit later on when you do it in the workforce. Very straightforward. In general, here at the university, we distinguish 2 types of unacceptable behavior. One is plagiarism, where you copy somebody's ideas, designs, words without acknowledgement, and the other one is collusion, where you work together with somebody to produce an assessment. For example, in assignment 1, you are not allowed to work with anyone else because assignment 1 is an individual assignment. Assignment 2 is a group assignment, but then obviously the two different groups should not collaborate. It is okay, and you will see this very soon. It is okay ideally via the discussions forum, to discuss high-level questions, high-level aspects. Say, I've got trouble running this, or how do you do this in Java or in Python, and so on. Ask this on the forums. Everybody gets to see it. And if I think, hey, you're sharing answers of an assessment, I can jump in. But I have not seen this just yet. No, not yet. In general, as big in red, just to really hammer it home, do not submit any work or part thereof which is not yours. Super important. And second one is, do not submit any work for which you have received unfair assistance. I've already mentioned that we are monitoring some of these homework, whatever, consultant websites where people end up doing your homeworks. Don't do it. Let's briefly go through some examples. First one, let's assume, okay, this is not from my perspective, so just consider me to be a student at the moment, or just for a moment. So let's say I've finished my assignment and the classmate asks for help. Because I'm a kind person, sometimes, I've given the classmate a copy of my code, my part, posted my solutions maybe online for his or her reference, or maybe I'll allow the classmate to even just have a look at my screen or paper. Are these all acceptable? Are these not acceptable? Does anyone want to guess in the chat maybe? Acceptable or not acceptable? Anyone wants to go ahead? All three. Are these acceptable or not acceptable? Anyone, please? Unacceptable. Thank you, Vinci. Good. Anyone who thinks this is all acceptable? I'm not seeing anyone. Good. By the way, Sayoni, I've seen your question. I will get back to this at the end of the lecture. Thank you. Cool. Good. So these are all not acceptable. Don't do it. No looking. Don't do it. It's nice that you want to help. Don't do it this way. Similar situation. I finished my assignment. Somebody, classmate asked for help. I give a few high-level tips to my classmate. Discussed high-level concepts regarding the assignment with my classmate. And these are, I'll make it a bit quicker here. These are definitely acceptable. Use the official course forum to discuss. It's good for several reasons. One is, well, you can help each other. The other one is, what did I want to say? Well, and one other reason is, I get to see that there have been misconceptions. I don't get to feedback otherwise, right? I need to wait until the very time I get to see the marks from Beard, and when the marks are not fantastic because everybody misunderstood a particular important aspect of the assignment, well, it would have been good for me to know this earlier so that I could have clarified this earlier, right? So, yeah, use the official discussions forum. It's overall very well used. I'll have another screenshot later on. Use the discussions forum, please. Another situation. So, good friend, housemate, twin brother, or anyone else, and I are taking the same course. You've always worked together, and now you exchange solutions and compared your answers, or maybe, or I've actually compared answers. You divided up the assignment work. If it's an individual assignment, you sat side by side and then again looked at each other's answers or looking at the screen or so, and this is all not acceptable. Don't do it. Do everything on your own, unless you go via the forums. But please, of course, don't post full solutions to the assignments there. Example 4, is the assignment this year seems to be the same as last year's. Maybe you got a copy from somewhere. Don't do it, please. And don't do this because we have the submissions from last year, right? So we can easily run a program to double check, okay, do we have high text similarity? And these text similarities, they don't just go for full sentences, but also some structures. So be very careful what you do here. Just do everything from scratch. You really learn the most from it. And I think you're here because you want to learn. So example 5, it's maybe not from this university, but it's maybe similar to what you've seen at another university. First, this is relatively unlikely here, unless somebody copied my by assignment sheet. And second, it's also not accepted. So don't copy from here, don't copy from anyone else. Just don't do it. Lastly, I believe here's example 6. I might have studied somewhere where maybe doing something is acceptable, and you simply and I simply assume that doing the same at the University of Adelaide is also acceptable. It's generally not. You're here, and Uni Adelaide staff. You are Uni Adelaide students. You need to adhere to the University of Adelaide policies, and through these half an hour, 1 hour, you're now briefed on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. In general, when you're in doubt, ask me, or ask through the forums, right? If you're not sure how much text you can copy, or whether you can, for example, for the essays, are you allowed to copy tables? Yes. Are you allowed to take screenshots from figures? Yes, you're allowed to. But these things, don't send me an email, just post it as a question there, say, hey, you're not entirely sure. Post it there, and you can see, I think this was from last semester, this is not the entire list of all the things that have been going on the discussions forum. It just continues further and further down. It was reasonably busy. We see posts every few days, and discussions, 3 posts, 3 replies, 4 replies, 2 replies, 2 replies, 1 reply, 5 replies. It's busy, 4 replies here. Use the course forum, please. Makes everybody's life so much easier. Oh, and that's actually it for today. I do see, so before we go into even more questions, I do have it. So again, I think this course is special because we see, well, you get to see so many different people working on so many different topics. You've got a broad spectrum of assessments, group work, spotlight talks, and so on. So lots of opportunities to get feedback, to learn something. Next lecture, proper lecture, will be on Wednesday. But before I open it up in general to questions. There was a question by Sayuni. And the question is, well, you might have seen this. So I have a question about the group work. Since most people are meeting on Zoom, will we get to select our group members, or will we be allocated randomly? You will get to select your group members yourself. So just sort of you for your groups. If you don't know enough people just yet, just go via go to the, where is it, course forum, say discussions, and once it comes up, discussions, click on discussions and start a new discussion saying group member needed. So, there are some old ones that are currently hidden, so just ignore the other posts that you can see here. Sharon asked about minimum of 3 group members per group. I would really like you all to be in groups of 3 to 4 students. We might not be able to do this perfectly. The reason is, if you work in slightly larger groups, you also get to do a bit more, potentially, because you have more human power involved. The other reason is, Viet's time is unfortunately a little bit limited. And if there are another 2 or 3 groups in total, this also means that but essentially the time per group that you can spend marking and providing feedback the total is fixed. So the more groups there are, the less time per team he has per group. Hence, I would really like you all to form groups of 3 to 4 students. And if you don't have a 3rd person yet or a 4th person yet, for group assignment 2, so for assignment 2 and number 3, so you have easily 1 month to find another person. Ask via the discussions. Oops. So just start a new discussion and say here, group member needed, get in touch by email and so on. Another question by Sharon. Is this will we have coding exercises, purely research essays, reports? No, there will be, so group assignments, so for assignment number 1, you can do it without coding. a little bit of coding might help. For assignments 2 and 3, there is definitely coding involved. Some students asked about, so last week I had one student come to my office. The code bases are in Python, sorry, Java. The code base is in Java. It is simple Java, so you do not need to worry about say coding your own user interface, or the one user interface will be provided. You don't have to worry about client-server interaction. You don't have to worry about, I don't know, all the fancy stuff that Java provides. It's all relatively basic. So if you haven't coded anything in Java for a little while, maybe do some Hello World again, do some simple coding examples. Java. Maybe consider some simple top coder questions. Java, yeah, can't type. Yeah. Other languages in this course are not really an option because you need to interact with the Java code. It might be possible if you bend over backward and try to make it to get it to work, but yeah, Java is probably the easiest. Maybe then group members. If you just write it here, 3 to 4 students. Do we have, so Sharon also asked, do we have workshops or any consultation sessions? We do not have workshops. We have some Q&A sessions from time to time. Actually, that's maybe, let's spend 30 seconds or 1 minute to briefly see what's happening in this semester. So we have, well, the introductory outline lecture today, right now. We have the first proper lecture on Wednesday. We have a public holiday on Monday, and we have another lecture, nothing on Wednesday. 2 lectures then again. Then there's there are 2 general purpose sessions, and there's a public holiday again. Nothing, but that's because the video is due. There's another public holiday. There's a progress presentation towards video 2. So this is maybe, this can count as this consultation session. A video session where we will just watch videos to see, okay, what have you all actually produced. Maybe we need a second day for this, probably. There's another general Q&A session, nothing. Then there's 1 week without anything because, again, video and reports are due relatively soon. But there's another progress presentation session and another video session at the end. And maybe that will again be 2 sessions. Cool. So long story short, no consultation sessions in the sense that, hey, there's a certain fixed hour. So we run a bit asynchronous. But we do have sessions from time to time that are dedicated to providing feedback. You can bring along your questions from coding, from just post content, anything. We do have these Q&A sessions. We do have them, for example, general Q&A. We will, of course, monitor. We will continue to look at the discussions forum. So when you have questions, just post them there. It's no problem at all. Ask early. The earlier, the better. There are 2 questions at the moment. So first one, Lantian. Lantian asked, check the list. She has checked the list of spotlight talk essays, their books. Read the whole book. No. You're not supposed to read the whole book. Can you please share the link, Lantian? Something might have gone wrong. So these are not books. Each name here. Maybe I'll quickly jump to this. There it is. Okay, thanks for the link. Good, I'll click on this right away. Okay, it's opening, and I clicked on it way too many times now. Oh, by the way, I just noticed that my battery has dropped to 2%, so there's a small chance that I will simply die. Well, the laptop dies in very soon. Oh my goodness. Login. Can we still see this? So the books, it should be just talked. I'll try to speed things up because I do not know how long the 1% will still last me now. Oh my goodness. What else do we have? Raj asked about quizzes. Yes, you can start right away. Don't worry about it, because the material is already online. So, spot test present. You don't need to be present on the day of the presentation. No, the videos will be due at some point. So just submit a video. There will be no Q&A afterwards. Although I would like to do this, but there will be no Q&A. Conflict every Wednesday. If you have a conflict for a particular day, we can always make it work. So we can have a second session and then we can be present on another one. So don't worry about this. We'll make that work. Good. Lots of questions. It's good. Yes, it's fantastic that you ask questions. Because I might just disappear in a few seconds since I'm still at 1% here. Keep asking through the discussions forum. I will post the video later. And I think maybe it's because I'm still at 1%. I will gracefully close this session now. So thanks very much for coming here today. I've said it many times now. If you have additional questions, ask on the course forum. And I'll see you all on Wednesday, currently online only. I will let you know once I book a room again. Thank you all for coming. It was great to see 18 participants here. Fantastic. Thanks very much. And we'll continue on Wednesday. Take care. Bye-bye. Individually, so wonderful. I think the presentations and the reports there individually. Definitely. Yeah. Don't do research group assignments. Group assignments only. Group assignment 2 and number 3. Okay, I'll close this now because otherwise section starts. Okay, bye-bye.